So Victober unfortunately didn't go much further than where we left off in the previous episode. I only read two more books and both of those were very short. I said last time I should really have hauled myself out of that reading slump I've spent most of the last 12 months in by starting small, doing some short books instead of that 600 plus page extravaganza, so I did two books weighing in around 100 pages. One was Twilight Stories by Rhoda Broughton, which is a collection of 5 mostly ghost stories. Rhoda Broughton was a Welsh author whose aunt married J. Sheridan Le Fanu, the author of Uncle Silas and Carmilla, among many others, and I think Uncle Joe gave her career a bit of a start. She had a bit of a reputation as a sensation novelist from early on, and some of her stuff was apparently considered quite scandalous. But that's not something you can really call this collection. Twilight Stories was originally published in 1873 as Tales for Christmas Eve, so it was intended in the tradition of the festive season ghost story in England. All of the stories first appeared in Temple Bar magazine, and to be honest, I wasn't really blown away by them. I liked the fourth one, Poor Pretty Bobby, and that was about it. Maybe I'm better trying one of Broughton's novels, I don't know. The other book was Cousin Phyllis by Elizabeth Gaskell. I have the Penguin edition of Cranford, which also has that as a sort of second feature, and having read Cranford for Victober last year, I thought I should probably finish the book off. I didn't think I was going to like Cousin Phyllis much at first, but once I got to the last part, I suddenly did find myself liking it. It was originally written and published as a serial in 4 parts. Basically, it's the 1840s, the railways are opening up across the country, and our narrator, Paul, is assigned to work on one. And he discovers a branch of the family living nearby that he didn't previously know about, and so he's also assigned by his mother to go and meet them. All goes nicely until he also introduces his co-worker to his cousins, and relations get complicated. Now, Gaskell wrote this in 4 parts and published it in 4 parts, but she had planned it as a 6-parter. I don't know why she decided just to leave it 4. And while the book does feel like it ends reasonably naturally, and I don't know how she meant to continue it, it does also feel like there should be more, because there was supposed to be before, for whatever reason, she decided not to bother with it. I felt all the way through that Phyllis herself was a kind of secondary character in her own story. She's kind of passive in a way that makes the story really about how others view and treat her. And maybe in parts 5 and 6 she would have actually done something and been an active participant in things. But who knows? Anyway, that was that. As usual in these things when I do take part in them, I was full of ideas about what I would do. For this Victober, I fully imagined myself finally catching up with some of the big Victorian titles I've never read, like Jane Eyre or Barry Lyndon or Uncle Silas. Maybe read some Robert Louis Stevenson, some George Reynolds, maybe even a bit of Dickens or Wilkie Collins. And, as usual, those plans just crashed kind of headlong against the reality of me and my brain and my moods and my inclinations and the various other things I'd rather do or need to do, like this nonsense, at any given moment. I'm sure the fact that I started with The Black Monk, which was a very large book, after not having read anything really substantial in about a year, didn't help. Normally, if I've been applying myself to reading, I probably should have been able to get through that in about 5 or 6 days rather than 13. I actually did have a go at a 4th book, that being Zanoni by Edward Bulwer-Lytton. I started reading that after the Gaskell book, read a few chapters, and found I was out of the mood. And then I didn't read anything until the end of the month when I sped through the Broughton book. This sort of thing happens to me all the time, and I really wish it didn't. 2021 was going to be the year that I finally made my third and last attempt to finish War and Peace. It's been over 20 years now since I last tried. That clearly didn't happen. I also had a vague idea of catching up with a bunch of classic crime novels, finishing off all the Dashiell Hammett books I haven't read, reading some Mickey Spillane, Cornell Woolrich, David Goodis, that sort of thing. Also did not happen. And I had an even more vague plan to just read one book a week on average over the year, 52 books of whatever sort. No. I seem to recall being a lot better at managing these things when I was younger. I had a lot more focus. Mind you, when I was younger, I wasn't disabled from a stroke. I wasn't in my nearly late 40s like I am now. Everything was easier, my attention span was greater, even the internet wasn't as much of a distraction as it seems to be now. And it's frustrating, because I always feel in these instances that I should be doing more, making more of an effort, because if I can watch a 3-hour YouTube video like I did in between writing parts of this, I should be able to focus on a proper film or book or TV series or whatever. I suspect it's as much of, or maybe even more, of a mental health slump than anything else, really. And that's the sort of thing I have the most trouble pulling myself out of. So much for this being the BookTube channel I thought it might be one day. Anyway, hopefully the next episode will have a bit less pissing and moaning going on. I am rather good at the pissing and moaning, of course, but it's not much fun for the handful of people who listen to me doing it, including myself, because I have to listen back to this rubbish to edit it before posting. Anyway, thanks for listening. I will catch you next time.